More minutes. I'm doing the countdown.
Okay.
Countdown time. speakers going, so you got to be. Shit. Oh, crap. No, we're not at 10. I think we're in. Howdy and aloha, everybody. This is James with Monotalk. My show is about saving the planet and all of its inhabitants. If we have the right people in the right positions, we might get something done for this godforsaken country and for ourselves, the 99%. Because fuck the 1%. To a certain extent. They've just been greedy bastards for too long. But anyway, I've got some people already on with me. I'm going to open it up for discussion. It's open mic. We're talking general green stuff. We could talk about COVID. We could talk about, but no personal, like, family stuff. Or if you want to talk about your job, I guess that's okay. But I don't want to get too crazy. So there we go. Cosmo. Who's Cosmo Beanginger? I don't even know who that is. We're going to find out. Oh, is that Cosmo? No, it is. Hang on. I'm going to go to gallery. All right, let's see here. Hang on. Let's find out. Hopefully it's not a... Hello, everybody. And welcome. Everybody's on. So you can jump in. Cosmo. Oh, it's Cosmo. Hey, bro.
Hey.
Good seeing you.
Okay, we thought you were one of those.
Cosmo. I'm like, Cosmo, is that our Cosmo? She's like, yeah, it's
Sorry.
our Cosmo. Stevie's here, but she's just kind of like taking care of a few things. She's at her desk.
There we go.
Guys.
I thought you were one of those Zoom hacker trolls.
I know.
No, I only wish I was that clever.
It's Alios. What's up, bro? Right, good seeing you. How you feeling, man? How have you been? How are things going with you in regards?
I am currently dying in grad school. That is how I'm doing.
Oh, right? Listen, my son's going to be graduating, and I can't go over there to California. Because, no, 3.7 million kids are graduating this year in high school, I think it is. Right? And they're not going to have a ceremony.
No.
They're not going to have shit. It's fucked up.
I mean, if it's any... I don't mean to be that guy, but if it's any consolation to them, I had to miss both of my graduating ceremonies for college. And I paid thousands of dollars for those.
Why?
Because, okay, so here's the story behind that. When I was in undergraduate, I was taking my... You know, as a teacher, the last step usually for certification when you go through the college route is your student internship, right? The student teaching. So I was doing my student teaching at the time, and part of that student teaching was that I was supposed to put a portfolio project and deliver that to the colleges of education. They would grade through that portfolio project, and they would give me a pass or fail whether or not I would be able to be certified to join this state of Oklahoma's teacher corps. Sounds good, right? Well, problem was the night I submitted all my stuff the week before my graduation, and I found out the night before that my submission failed. But I was being given until Monday of the following, like midnight of Monday, to get to resubmit. But if I do that, and here's the other thing that was happening at the time. My brother was graduating that same year, my younger brother, 2 years younger. So I was going to have to fly out to Portland to go and attend his ceremony. So I was literally stuck between two options. Either attend my ceremony and work through my younger brothers, or skip mine.
And just go to your younger brothers.
And that's what I ended up doing. And I missed not just my one for the College of Education.
For your brother. You did that for your brother.
I did.
That's awesome.
and I skipped not
That's
only
such a
my
good
college
kid.
of education, my teaching degree
I want to shake
graduation.
your
I
parents'
also
hands. I
skipped.
want to, you and
Oh, my
Lucas.
parents were pissed about this.
Okay, but
Not,
you
not,
know
no,
what?
no, no,
They raised a good
not
kid.
because they wanted the ceremony. They honestly could give less of a shit about the ceremony. The reason they were pissed was because how much they knew that meant for me to be able to do that.
Right.
And so I took a pretty significant chunk, and it wasn't just my education ceremony I missed. It was also my physics graduation as well.
Jesus.
So I skipped two ceremonies um, that I was intending to attend, just so that I can get this project done and attend my brother's. I literally the night before I was when I arrived in Portland at my uncle's place,
Mm-hmm.
I was still working there until like 8 o'clock in the evening, and I had been up uh, basically for about 24 hours at that point, and I was just like by 6 o'clock, I knew I just tapped. I just tapped. I didn't have anything left that I could write,
Yeah.
gas left to write. So I just submitted it, and I spent the remaining 3 hours I was awake that night, just internally panicking over whether or not
So,
it
what
would
was the
go
result
through.
of your paper?
Literally, as we were turning into my brother's university, Reed College. As soon as we got to Reed, I checked my email, and it was a pass.
Oh,
I
that's
I
good.
passed. I literally passed
Yeah.
mere hours before. I I was about to watch my brother walk his
Walk the
graduation,
line.
and so
Yeah.
in a sense,
Cap and
no,
gown, dude.
Sky
Cap and
Sky ended
gown.
up not just walking for himself, but for me as well. And in actuality, the speaker they got for the ceremony was
Mm.
actually a really fucking good one. It, uh, she was a nonprofit worker who graduated from Reed. So it was so much better than like the usual corporate bullshit guy they usually get for these ceremonies. It's like, you're about to join the professional managerial class of society. Have fun, everyone.
He just
Man, it was like
threw you guys
actual
right out
fucking
of the
like an
nest.
activist. Like
Like
we actually
pushed you
got
off of
somebody
the
who's like an
nest.
activist. Yeah, just
Off
sort of
of the
like,
cliff
yeah.
of right, here you go. Boop. That's fucking awesome. You had a what's up?
Actually, no, I think she was a doctor. I might have gotten that completely wrong. I
On
think she
what?
was a doctor.
They can't hear me?
Hmm? Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I was just I have a technical support person.
Oh, oh no.
Oh,
Are
is that
we
Kevin
having
and
issues?
Trolls usually jump in on Cosma? What?
Well, I'm gonna take a page out of Brandon Sutton and Jamal Thomas and say, "Come at me, bro. Come at me."
What? Okay. So I don't know if you've seen this or heard this. You want me to show you something pretty cool?
Hmm?
Actually, nobody will see it. You won't see it, but I'll just tell you what it says.
All right.
It's actually. Oh crap! I'd lost it again. So we got some news, and there's some things happening,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really trying to understand what's going on. But it really appears as though, right,
Mm-hmm.
as though. Let me find this right here. There it is,
Hit it with me, Chief.
and it has something to do with Jesse Ventura. Primo Nutmeg has put out some information in regards to Jesse. Let me just see here. Let me see. That's one. God, he's got a huge vine on that. My God, that's just like 1,000 people are responding to that. But anyway, that he's submitted some kind of letter, or that he wants to run Green Party. I'm all for it. What do you think about that, Lucas? I mean, Elios, Cosmo, whatever. Sorry, buddy. I always get you guys mixed up. What is your thought on Jesse Ventura running Green Party? You're that I didn't mute you. I should be able to hear you. Something happened with your sound.
I don't hear him either.
There we go.
There you
Is this
go.
better?
There you go.
Yeah, my Samsung mic is pretty much dead, so that's why. So here is my thoughts. Frankly, as far as electoral politics is concerned, I'm kind of slayed. Now, what do I think would be the implications of Jesse Ventura entering into the Green Party race? I honestly don't know. I would say Ventura has a lot of clout going into it, not just because of his celebrity status, but because he is an experienced independent governor. And so he does have a certain degree of executive experience that pretty much anyone else in the race does not have. And that's not to slight people like Dario. That's just the nature of the beast. You know, leading a religious congregation is not the same, or even a classroom. It's not the same kind of experience as being the governor. So Jesse has a track record that shows that he can operate within a political environment. Whether or not that can translate to electoral success, that's a separate question. Right. The problem Jesse has is that he's entering in really, really late. I can't stress, like, this is April now. Like, if Jesse had entered in January or probably it would have been preferable for him to enter in August. Doing it now, I worry that it's going to come across as more like a vanity project. It's just like he's not, because there's so much organization that he's lacking if he is to enter in at this point. I'm not saying he won't have an effect. I'm just saying that for him to be effective enough to actually gain the nomination, I highly am skeptical of that.
I think
in this case it might be different.
Go ahead.
Now, throughout this election, every 3 weeks, as the Democrat of the day or Democrat of the week failed, they brought another person in, and they just keep bringing them in, bringing them in. And even right now, there is talk not of just general public, but Democrats of, okay, Biden does have a cognitive issue. Who do we bring in next? They don't revert back to, okay, Biden's out, go to the number 2, which was Bernie. Instead, it's, well, we can't have Bernie. We need to bring in somebody new. So the Democrats have already thrown out the argument that, like last week it was, well, let's bring in Cuomo instead of Biden. So they're already saying that they're going to disregard the entire rest of the primary system, and they're getting ready to put in somebody else. Yeah. So if that's the case, that totally negates anything of what it is. And I also think that at this point, the burners tried twice, that's all, that within days or weeks, they would have a total structure set up to completely move Ventura beyond Biden or the Biden alternative, whether that's Michelle or whether that's Hillary.
That is saying they can coalesce. And that's, I think one thing that you have to take into consideration is the fact that a lot of them are super peeved at the electoral process. And it's not like some of these people haven't been paying attention to what's been going on in the Green Party, because there is a lot of Bernie people who have been paying attention to what Howie Hawkins has been up to, and they are not happy. And so yes, Ventura has may have a platform. Hell, he doesn't even need to make a platform. He can just adopt Bernie's or Dario's or literally pick any random lefty out of a hat and run on it. That's not the issue. The issue is going to be ground game. And one is recoalescing those not just the Bernie coalition, because Bernie's coalition, even though it is organized, it's rapidly dissolving. And I've noticed this from watching the student groups here at OSU. So there is that aspect of this that's a bit on the shaky side. The other aspect is going to be just getting resources. Bernie and pretty much everyone else. Michael Bloomberg entered into the race late, but people also have to remember Michael Bloomberg has billions of fucking dollars behind his name that he can leverage at the tip of a fucking hat. And Jesse is rich, but he's not multi-billionaire rich, not like multi-billionaire rich. And so there is a resource gap that unless he's willing to torch all of his resources, all of his assets in order to make a presidential run, I don't see how he can conceivably close that gap to be able to catch up, not just to where the rest of the Green Party contenders are, but to where the major party candidates have been. And so that is the $1 million question. I'm not saying that Jesse is going to be ineffectual if he runs. I'm positing the question of, can he close those gaps?
I think that with Bernie having put his tail between his legs and, ran off, with that happening, I think that there's a huge fundraising base to where we can run on the people's money and not Jesse's.
I agree with you to a point. That we do have a theoretical base that we can tap into. The problem is getting them re-engaged into the system to be able to donate to somebody else.
Tulsi raised $10 million.
Tulsi
That's
did.
a lot.
No.
And I think, and she was at 2% in that race. So no, I think Jesse can top Tulsi's fundraising numbers. I think he could double them.
He probably could, because one thing he does have to his benefit that he coincidentally shares with Donald Trump, but not for the same reasons, is he has celebrity clout. He has celebrity clout, and he has prior governing experience. Those are the two things that are working in his favor if he does enter at this stage. The other things that he does need is that once he has some starting assets that he can work with. The question is that can he convince enough Bernie people to give their donation wheel one more shot, especially right now when everybody has been out of work for about a month. And there's no guarantee that for a lot of the people who are donating to Bernie, whether or not they'll have any more money to give at this point, not just because of political disaffection, but also because we are now about to enter into an economic crisis spurred on by the recent pandemic outbreak.
That is,
those are things that are variables that Jesse Ventura has to contend with that I'm not yet sure. And this is just, and granted, this is very early on. This news is just broken, so we will see how the dice.
I'll tell you this: most Green Party candidates for the nomination can't get on the major TV networks and the big shows like Joe Rogan, without first, winning the primary. Jesse can already do that without winning the primary. So he can go in front of a shitload of eyeballs, just the greatest amount of eyeballs ever. And I'm pretty sure there's even some some folks with deeper pockets than others who are willing to put their bets on this guy.
Look, I'm not denying that there might be somebody like a Jack Dorsey-like motherfucker who would be willing to bankroll for Jesse Ventura's campaign. It's just there's a lot of institutional setbacks that, you know, when I think one of the lessons we can learn from Bernie's entrance into the Democratic Party is that political parties in general, and maybe the Green Party will be more receptive to this than others, is that they tend to be kind of resistant to outside board insurgencies inside of their own ranks. And so Jesse just showing up saying, I'm around for the Green Party now. You guys are just going to have to deal with that. I don't know how that's going to necessarily play with the Green Party's leadership, especially one that is as favorable to Hawkins as it currently is. And so,
well, you know, there's documented evidence of them, you know, rigging it in Hawkins' favor anyway. So it was always going to be a contested convention. Now it's going to be a super hyper contested convention. I think somebody would have died if we were actually meeting in person. Now we're doing it online due to the virus, I guess.
God help the Green Party.
But I feel like if Jesse ran and like the virus thing wasn't a thing, and we were still doing it at the University of Michigan, that if we were still doing that, I think somebody would have died by the end of that convention. That's how far I'd take it.
Well, they may still die at the convention, but it's just that now it's just for reasons that don't involve fisticuffs and political chair throwing.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, that is a terrible joke. We shouldn't be joking about health-threatening pandemics, no matter how immunocompromised we may or may not be.
I'm, you know, like, I mean, I don't know. I've seen a lot of things humans do, and I'm just like, okay, who's the real virus? The corona or the humans?
All right. So
I don't know.
Hold on. So Will. So according to not Mr. Anderson, but Mr. Smith of the Matrix, we're the virus, right? Right, we're the virus. But in regards to what we're discussing besides COVID, which we're going to talk about too, I think that Jesse would be the virus of the two-party oligarchy. Because the goal for him is, of course, he wants to take the position. If Jesse's going to run, he's going to. I mean, we've all talked about this in June and months after of 2018. But from that, all those shows that we had, the goal that he had, the goal that we all had was very simple. Very simple. Get him on board, get him to bring more people into the party, get some publicity for the party, and make sure that people knew who the Green Party was. With that being done and said, he could also change the course of maybe some other offices, like down ballot, House of Representatives, just by him saying a few words. But his presence is so big. As I showed earlier, you guys didn't see it, but it was on YouTube, because I do it through my OBS. I showed some of the contenders that are for the Green Party now. We got
our democracy did not.
We got Sudnem, Howie, Dario, Chad, Dennis Lambert, and I forgot who the other guy was. I don't know his name. But anyway, so they're all there. They're doing a debate tonight. Sadly, Dario Hunter, which is not a good sign of anything, doesn't have a camera, and he's not in there. But honestly, these guys really can't hold a candle to the influence and the effect that Jesse Ventura is going to have on the U.S. voting republic. We're not just talking the Green Party. These people here have good influence, and they have a lot of Green Party support. That's great. But outside of the Green Party, which is only maybe 200,000 registered voters, Jesse can bring in hundreds of thousands of people, maybe even millions of people, to pay attention not just to him and his message, but also to the Green Party, the 4 pillars, the 10 key values, and a lot of things that Bernie was so very aligned with, and bringing a lot of Bernie voters. But it's a good way for us, the 99%, to get in, to have our word, because the Democrats weren't going to do it. The Republicans sure in the hell ain't going to do it. So now it's time for a new party to wedge themselves in between these two megalithic, gigantic, celestial beings, right? In a sense, right? Big fucking hammer down.
You're just going full Jamal Thomas right now.
I'm doing a Guardians of the Galaxy analogy. But the thing is he's going to come in and just blow the doors wide open and call them out for what they are. The goal basically right now, and this could be really huge, if he can get enough poll support to get on the stage in a debate with Biden and Trump, I see Biden, for one, probably not making it. I don't care who you put in for the Democratic Party. I know Trump's going to say a bunch of shit and say stupid crap, but people need to understand that when Trump used to be an avid and serious Democrat, when he knew Jesse and they hung out or spoke every once in a while, that's when Trump was a Democrat and Jesse was still an independent out there running for Minnesota, the only independent to take a governorship. I mean, this is
I mean,
huge.
I just have to say, according to Woody Harrelson, he had a dinner with Trump and Jesse, and Trump was asking Jesse if he would run on the Democrat ticket with him in 2004.
Yeah. But here's the biggest
Jesse
reason why
had a better sense than one, to partner with Trump, and two, to partner with the Democratic Party.
Yeah, so we're trying to part the Red Sea here, right? I'm not saying he's Moses, but he's fucking damn close. So what's going to happen is if you can part the Red Sea and you can expose these motherfuckers for what they are, what they truly are, they're a bunch of corporate whores, corporate pawns, 1% elitist puppets, basically, right?
I mean,
and it's just gonna be a bad moment for the two-party oligarchy, or I call it the corporate party. The Dumbo Cants and the Republicans are going to really show their true colors, which they already are. But I'm just saying this is a big reason. Hey, but look, if he does well enough, let's just say he's in, we get support and get people, and he does well enough, he could actually take it.
Yeah. Look, I'm not saying that he's
I'm okay with that.
down.
100%. That would be goal number one.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm not one of those people who goes down and out. Like, even at Tulsi's worst and lowest points, I never said that she was down and out. Not even Yang, I would have called down and out until they said quits. That's the only time it's down that it's over. I preface that all to say this: I would say that if there's anybody who can, given what you said, I think that Jesse Ventura may very well be the last best hope that the Green Party has in terms of being able to secure that kind of political relevancy. However, I do think, excuse me, sorry, I was about to sneeze there for a second. Didn't want to make an idiot of myself.
You okay there, Ayers?
Yeah, I'm fine now. So what was I? So I would like to say this. Do I think Jesse Ventura could do something immensely powerful? And I think you actually brought up a really good thing, an important point with how he can affect local. Excuse me. So Jesse Ventura actually could play a very important role in terms of the down ballot tickets. I think that's something that you brought up in your discussion that I think we honestly get ignore a lot whenever we talk about presidential politics. And I do think that Jesse, if he can't necessarily win the presidency, he can do a lot to demonstrate that, one, Democrat and Republican are not the only options that you have in order to vote at the presidential level. But more than that, you have options at your local level. You don't have to constantly want to be complaining about, well, it would be great if the Green Party was running local. Jesse, with his platform, if he chooses to use it, can actually show, hey, there's a local Green Party representative running in your office. Check out his platform. Maybe you throw him a cent or two. And if you really like what he has to say, vote for that motherfucker. And slowly but surely, you can begin to change the tide and make get rid of this red and blue America to that green America. And I think that's something Jesse can do. Whether or not that happens, is dependent upon A, whether or not he can get to the primary, or even B, what he chooses to do if he chooses to enter the primary. Because even if he doesn't get to the nomination, he can still use his platform to uplift local Green Party members and give them a fighting chance going into the ballot box in November.
His sound went off again.
We haven't heard from Spark in a while. Spark, you still alive?
No, I'm here, but some of that at the end we kind of lost it. So let me go in the chat real quick, you guys, if you don't mind. I'm going to look at something. I got Max Waller's here. Good to see you again, Max. We got Hey You, hi, whoever that is. So he's bringing up an important point of he's got to get, I think it's 11%. I don't think it's 15 to get in regards to polling to get on the debate stage. I'm almost certain it's 11. But whatever the case may be, but if let's just say he gets 16, but here's the thing, and this is what I think he's getting to. They won't let him. Which what I'm saying is give him the exposure. So the reason why Trump is in office is because the Podesta emails clearly indicated that the Clinton Mafia and everybody in the DNC said, let's put up, we got 3 Pied Pipers that we're going to go after, or 3 people that she'd run against, and you need to pick one. It was Ben Carlson, Ted Cruz, and Donald Trump. So they picked Donald Trump as their person to give the most advertising. It was like 5 or 10 billion or god-awful amount of money of constant advertising, and keep him on, let him step on his own words and stick his foot in his mouth. But he kept saying the stuff that the people from deep underneath the rocks wanted to hear, and brought out a base that they didn't even realize was there. So now he's there. He's in. He's doing all kinds of stupid shit, as he's done for a long time.
Yeah.
But the thing is what Hey You is conveying, and I get this, that if Jesse gets to the point to where he's getting publicity, they're going to have no choice but to put him in front of the camera. Because they're not going to do it for Howie Hawkins. That's for damn sure. They're not going to do it for Dario Hunter because he can't even turn on his fucking camera.
Or if they think that they're going to get some kind of media rating.
We love you, Dario. Don't take this the wrong way.
Yeah, like they're going to get some kind of media rating, right?
Because that's why they got the views from Trump, because of the fear mongering, right?
Yeah.
So they can use him as a...
Poor life is a tough life.
Right. Yeah, they wanted to use him as the bad guy, right? They wanted to use Trump as the bad guy so that Hillary would take him down.
Actually, this is something that, if I can just entertain this for just a second, this is the part where Jesse Ventura's experience in pro wrestling actually goes to his benefit, because one of the things they teach about pro wrestling, it's about merit. It's not just about the physicality. That's the part everybody remembers about the WWE. but what's important for a good WWE match, it's not just the physicality, it's the narrative control. It's the narrative that you spin. And the people who work at the WWE, regardless of whatever you think of their politics, regardless of whatever you think about the actual wrestling, they are masters at storytelling. They when you go into a match for the WWE, you know who the good guy is, you know who the bad guy is, and depending on who it is that day, you know who you're supposed to root for.
They're trained at that.
You're supposed to root for. Whether or not you actually choose to root for them is a separate question entirely.
Yeah.
But
that's what
Jesse has. Not only does he have experience in doing that, he's actively worked to manipulate it for himself. And I don't. Now, I'm not personally that familiar with Jesse Ventura's WWE career to know whether or not he played the good guy or the bad guy throughout the course of his career. But I do know that just having that experience gives you a window and an inkling of an eye as to how you position yourself from a narrative position, how you position yourself politically for optics, at least for optics purposes, so that you either A, are the good guy and you can spread your message peacefully, or B, you be the bad guy and you spook the living fuck out of the people that you want to scare.
Well, one of the things that's been happening since November 10th of 2000, 2016. I can get my calendars all mixed up here. Maybe I got Alzheimer's. So what's been going on?
What is reality anymore?
Yeah, since November 10th, the whole narrative has been Trump is the worst person in the world. Our only goal is to beat Trump. And we've never talked about issues. It's always, we're going to beat Trump. We're going to beat Trump, going to beat Trump. Trump is the worst. But right now, if I look over the history of what's happened, and Trump has done some bad things, but actually, to me, Obama was worse than Trump.
Booyah.
And the fact is, we've been just biting the bait all along. It's just everything has been geared toward Trump. If Trump were to slip in the shower tomorrow and die, I don't know if Pence is set up and ready to go. Because the Democratic Party has actually been set up just to go against Trump. I don't know that they have anything against Pence.
Oh, good.
What would they have to do if they had to run against Pence?
Did you hear that?
We probably don't.
That's a good
although
point.
they may try. Although I would suspect that if they had to go against Pence, they would just try to recycle the Romney plate, the anti-Romney playbook, because they just figure every other Republican is a dime a dozen.
This is what happens
Trump,
to all
that's
these,
the specific oddball. But the problem with the Democratic Party is that they don't understand Trump's actual appeal.
Yeah.
So they are completely helpless in terms of being able to control the narrative. That's even assuming that they want to have that much control over the narrative,
and that's it.
Because part of it is that once you're in the opposition party, it's
Right?
so easy to grift money out.
Now, the Republicans aren't idiots. Now,
No,
they've
they're not.
already realized that this probably was going to happen. They have a lot of good analysts that are going on, and they probably knew 4 years ago that they would probably be going against someone like Biden.
Yeah.
They know who's in line to go next.
If they brought somebody like
They might even have more information than we know about.
They actually
What if they looked at what if they looked at the characteristics of the person in the Democratic Party that they were most likely having to go against? So Biden has most of the problems of Trump. Biden can't talk about underage girls. He can't talk about sniffing hair. He can't talk about where he's grabbing people now. So all of those points are moot. Now, if the Republicans decide that Trump doesn't have a clear path to winning, they could dump Trump. And if they did, they would have a candidate that doesn't have a history of having his children in taking high-paid jobs in other countries. He also, one thing they've set up Pence for all these years is he won't go into a room with a woman. There is no basis for any kind of incidents with women, because Biden, or not Biden himself, Pence himself will not go into a room with women. They've got a candidate
Propaganda's in there.
that is clear and free in case something happens to Trump or Trump is inviolable. So the Democrats are not ready to go against Pence if Biden is the candidate.
I don't think they're ready. Trump is the candidate, frankly.
No. But again, if Pence pulls out, the Democrats have no plan of how they would fight against Pence, because Pence has no history of poor behavior with women. He's got no history of getting his children high-paid jobs. Not even Pelosi can clear herself of that one because of her children and how they fall. And not even Warren, whose daughter happens to have a job where she has advocated against single payer.
She's with the healthcare industry. That's why.
Frankly, though,
the daughter.
I don't suspect that the Republicans would dump Trump, though. And the specific reason why is that they need they need Trump's base. It's not so much that they want Trump; it's that they need his voting base.
I don't think Trump's
voting base would revolt if they tried to kick out Trump.
That doesn't mean Trump is going to get kicked out.
That's a good point.
If Trump doesn't need the job. If Trump decides, well, I've had enough fun, I want to leave, that's a situation that could happen.
It could. I'm just saying
but
that if the Republicans tried to engineer a scenario to get Trump out, it's going to backfire. There is no scenario outside of Trump relinquishing power for whatever fucking reason it goes on in his head. There is no scenario where the Republicans take advantage of that.
I could see a scenario where one of his friends who just ran for Democratic Party could offer him $16 billion to quit, and he might be interested in taking that job. And if that's the case, we would be faced with Pence instead of Trump. It's a friendly Trump leave, so Trump would probably also be paid to talk and I bet the people would be happy to go with his choice. So if Trump were to endorse Pence for president, I think we would be looking at the Democratic Party having no course of action open to them.
Totally. That makes good sense.
Let me phrase it like this.
Don't tell him.
If Trump leaves voluntarily, all is going to be well for the Republican Party. If Trump is ejected involuntarily, then the Republicans get fucked.
That's what's happening
get fucked in the election cycle. Because even as catastrophically bad as Joe Biden is for the Democrats in terms of their electoral chances in November, the Republican base does have a bit of a spine to them in the sense that they will not tolerate their personal choice for who is in office getting shit canned by party leaders. If that ends up happening, well, that is not going to be good for the Republicans, because those people who were going to vote for your Republican senators, for your Republican congressmen, they're going to just tell you to fucking stuff it, and we'll deal with the Democrats later. And I think the Republicans are smart enough to know that taking out Trump at this stage would be a suicide pact. And unlike the Democrats, they are willing to bite that bullet.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be them taking him out.
It doesn't have to. Like I said, that's why I put the
data from the Social Security Administration's cohort life tables. These are a bunch of tables compelled and maintained every day by the Social Security Administration. And it's the likelihood of somebody 73 years old living to be 74. And that's, if somebody is in good health, bad health, poor health. I wish I could say I wasn't overweight. That is one of the indicators
Yeah.
of poor health. So, I know I can't be always the one to talk, but, secondly, I believe that as president, Trump is one of our employees. And of course, I'd never wish any harm on an employee. But being 73, you'll look at the tables, and you will see that the odds are not 100% that Trump will naturally live to see another term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
there are many cases, and again, like I said, it's a bear to be president. He's got a lot of money. He doesn't have to be president. If he doesn't enjoy it, any day he could say no. The financial implications of him saying I would like to leave are not negative.
No.
He leaves. He makes more money than if he stays.
Yeah, it seems like he's at that point. He's got an onslaught, and I'm not praising this guy, but he's dealing with these people that are constantly attacking him. And it looks like he's about to just say, what? You know what? Fuck everybody. I'm out of here. It just looks like he's about ready to do that. Hey, guys, real quick. I'm going to check the chat and see if there's some people saying a few things.
Oh, I forgot.
We got propaganda in. Look at the Jesse Bro narrative. LOL. Oh, Upstate Raiders been in it. Good take. Jesse V is good face for the left. Hi, how are you? Brainwashed, voting, mass, easy swayed, one way or another. Did Bernie relinquish his power? Bernie didn't plan on winning from the get-go. There's lots of proof on that.
I honestly wonder what the fuck.
Just second. Pence also has an anti-vaccine past. They would attack him on, of course.
Actually,
no
that is a
corporate
pretty
media
significant part.
would attack Big Pharma. Upstate Raider. Those stats change in his class, though. Best of everything makes in life gives the best chance of longevity. Best of everything makes in life gives the best chance of longevity. Does you understand what that means? I wish you'd come on and explain that. Best of everything makes in life give. Okay, I don't know. It just sounds pretty astute, though. So this is, and you said something that was. Stevie's here. She's just, her computer's messed up, and she's just kicking back. But you said something about Pence. He's what?
They pick their VPs based on.
Hold on.
They mentioned anti-vax vaccination.
Elias, hang on.
They use the VP as a threat. Like, you think I'm bad? You don't want my VP.
Yeah. So what happens is, and this happens a lot, is if you think I'm bad, here's my fucking VP. So they don't want you to even discuss or even thinking about using the VP. Right? Yeah, so they don't get JFK'd. Good point. Steve, it's brilliant. All right, go ahead, Elias. Thank you.
No. I was just going to expand because I thought you were the person you were talking with or trying to read off from was mentioning the anti-vax thing. So I was just going to use that as a springboard for us. Honestly, as far as the anti-vax, since that wasn't the case, woes me. But as far as what Pence's personal anti-vax stance is, I'd say on the coast, that's not going to help, or any place that has a relatively blue life and probably quite a few more educated red states.
Must be really
but
he hasn't said a fucking
in terms of, but also in terms of like rural areas, I don't see that being the negative that a lot of people might think of that as being, because issues of science literacy aren't really particularly at the height of everybody's thoughts and feelings on political matters when people aren't able to afford fucking bread. That's all I'll
Well,
say on
I'm
that.
getting better looking as that stuff's settling in. All right, so I don't know. Will has been here for a while. I think he must. Will he's meditating. I think he's just meditating. That's for sure. Snork. So here's. I've got some interesting questions in regards to COVID. If you don't mind, I want to get to that.
Sure. Again, I am not very medically literate.
No, I know you're right, but I know you would understand this. So Luke
we're physicists, not pediatricians.
Still, but his opinion is important, just like yours is the others, just like Will's is, and of course, just like Stevie's is. Mine really doesn't mean shit usually, but Luke Montague, 2 or 3 days ago, said COVID-19 had been tampered with by man before it was out circulating. This is the Nobel Prize winner of 2008, who found and located and something in regards to HIV. But he stated in French in some show, and then that was retranslated and everybody's circulating it, that COVID-19 has been tampered with because of, I guess on the end, there's like a cauliflower end to these shafts that come out. Doesn't sound right. But of the circular sphere of it, right? And
right,
that it was tampered with by either man or woman in a laboratory. So that's one thing. The other thing is there's a lot of people saying that the testing is not completely accurate and that it hasn't been isolated completely. So I don't know what you've heard, but I'm doing a lot of research on this, trying to find out.
I've been so busy with my personal homework and studying that I have literally not been able to pay attention to pretty much any news outside of whatever I can glean from watching either Jamal Thomas or Wising. And that gives you a good sense for like the political climate surrounding this event. But in terms of like the specifics about the disease or how it's being transmitted or anything relating to the morphology of the virus, those are things that I'm not privy to. And I have to be frankly honest about that before we enter into any discussion.
All right.
Yeah, and I probably, as far as physicists goes, I'm just an engineer, not a physicist. So
just an engineer. That's all.
For the layman, that's the same difference.
In the mass-produced vaccine yet, but there is this method being.
I don't even agree with Einstein on stuff. So
mainstream French TV today.
Hey, look, Einstein was right about a lot of things, but even he didn't think black holes existed because he just thought of it as like a weird quirk of his mathematics and not something that can actually physically happen. And well, what do you know? We just took a photo of it last year.
Yeah, well, and my theories on black holes don't even match with Hawking. So back to the medicine. One of the things is, why? Now, I'm not disputing that he thinks that it's likely that this was, man altered or human altered.
Right.
What I'm arguing with, what organization would play around with this kind of blowback? And blowback is a term for when you implement a weapon and it ends up hurting you. What kind of organization would play with something with such an extreme blowback potential?
I have one, the Democratic Party.
That's almost what I thought.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a pandemic.
I haven't given up on that thought yet, but again,
Wait. Are you trying to say you haven't given up on the thought of a pandemic?
No, that who would implement something with that level of blowback
Yeah, well, the guy that did the show, he's pretty familiar with the way the processes work.
That seems like the most obvious fucking answer. It's so
I don't think I could.
obvious.
I don't think I could even talk about it more without a cat on my lap and
going like this. I'm withholding it for billions and billions of dollars. No, so the guy that did that show, hang on. So the guy who did that, Montague, he said that on some French cable show, news show, and then some other people have chimed in on it and said, changing the proteins, that stuff was already out. And then this one guy said, well, why would they want to do this? Or how would that happen? And then he connected it, and I already posted it, the actual video that I already put on Twitter, and I put it out there in YouTube land. But he said, if somebody was trying to find a cure for coronavirus, and they were playing with it, maybe they made a mistake or got out, but supposedly this thing came from a bat, right? It came from a bat 20 miles away at a freaking animal market where the Chinese pretty much fucking eat everything, right? Which is 20 miles away from a very well-funded, where Fossey used to hang out at, Bill Gates laboratory, right? I don't know the name of it, but look it up. And this occurred. And then all of a sudden, everybody in Wuhan has everything, has all these flus, and it just gets crazy out there. But for some reason, and we don't know if we can trust the Chinese numbers, but Shanghai and Beijing were showing nothing. Basically almost nothing. And they're close. But Iran gets it really quick. A lot of our non-allies are getting this thing really quick. Look, I'm not jumping into these conspiracy theories and these theories, et cetera.
I mean, we have Brandon.
But I'm not putting my thumb on it. I'm not going to stamp it with my thumb. But it's been verified to a certain extent, and this is the way I'm saying it. If the Nobel Peace Prize winner is putting his stamp, right, on the fact that he's stating that it was man-made, that changes everything. Because they're clearly trying to state that it was, that it came from a bat in some animal market in Wuhan, 20 miles away from Bill Gates' laboratory.
What might be the case, I would just argue, is possibly it might be a combination of the two. It might be because the thing about conspiracy theories is that like a really good one tends to have the ones that end up being true end up having some basis in fact.
Snork's looking at all.
With the whole mind control experiments that the CIA was doing, those actually were happening. They weren't very successful, but it was something that the government actually was investing
into. But they fucking did it. It was proven that they did it.
Doing it.
Yeah.
And so the idea that the COVID-19 virus could have possibly been created in a laboratory, it may very well be that the people who were working on that were not intending this as a bioweapon. It could have, as you described it, could have just been an unintended consequence of medical research, dealing with a virus from a fairly well understood and very prolific family of viruses. And so it could be possible that the virus could have potentially escaped containment, may have ended up in the animal markets in Wuhan as a result of that breach of containment. Those get spread into the populace because it pass through individuals asymptomatically. It just keeps spreading faster and faster and faster. Now, depending on the degree of interstate commerce that occurs in China. The spread could have been very rapid from that point, or it could have been relatively well controlled to fairly local regions with maybe like one or two carriers, a few carriers at a time going out per day. Regardless of what the actual truth of that ends up being, I do think that just the mere possibility that this is this does have some man-made involvement. If I would argue that we shouldn't be taking what this scientist says, even if he's the Nobel laureate.
That's my point. He's a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Straight fact.
Not Peace Prize, but Nobel winner.
But I think it is fair to say that if his preliminary assessment has any basis in reality, then with potential consequences as for how the political ramifications of this disease are going to, how this pandemic began, is going to change quite significantly from the calculus we've got right now.
So I want to know,
because if it does turn out that it was a byproduct of the research being done at this medical facility,
right?
Then China is going to use this as an opportunity to say, look, it was your laboratories that released this. We don't care. We don't particularly care if you were trying to make a bioweapon or not. Your carelessness had led to the spread of this in our country. And this subsequently, because everybody's economy is tied to us now, we accidentally end up spreading it with before we even understood fully what the hell was going on. And now you want to blame this on us?
They're already saying that.
Look at your own people and take some fucking responsibility.
Alias, that's saying that.
And China, at least as far as the rest of the world is concerned, has been on top of handling COVID, regardless of how crappy it handled it initially. They've gotten on top of COVID. Yeah, at least as far as the rest of the world is concerned, as long as these numbers prove to be accurate, then that's going to be the perception the rest of the world has. And so China is going to be able to use this incident as a springboard to say, look, the Americans were fucking around getting their own people killed, and because of their sloppy research practices, they ended up getting a lot of us killed too. Why on earth should we continue to pretend like America should have any serious say in what global conversation of foreign politics going into the future? And that is what I foresee as the potential political consequences of any of this ends up being true. Because if it's not true, or if it never gets substantiated, then the situation as it is, however much Donald Trump can control it by blaming it on China, it will probably be the dominant narrative.
Hang on. So what our country is very well known for is finger pointing.
Oh no, it is.
Yeah, we're huge at that. So what I'm saying is, I don't know who the players are in all of this. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was an accident. And it does link to Gates' facility, which is 20 miles away from where I guess the epicenter happened, which has been proven. And they're saying that's the epicenter. But let's just say this, that we know now from a Nobel, not Peace Prize, Nobel Prize winner, that it was tampered with or man-made. That means that it probably wasn't in a bat. Maybe it was in a vial or some kind of syringe or something, and somebody spread it. There's so many different ways you can go with that.
It may have been disposed of improperly, and contact with the local wildlife, or or any animals passing through that area might have come into contact with the virus. They can then act as a transmission carrier. And that,
or the bat bit a fruit, or a bat bit the fruit, and somebody ate the fruit. I don't know. Snork, what do you think? Hold on, just give Snork a little time. I know you were looking it up, but what do you think about the man's / woman possibility in a laboratory of this actual COVID-19, which, from people say, hasn't been fully isolated yet?
Mechanisms of understanding how viruses are transmitted isn't even fully out there yet. We're talking about a few ways that it could change, and there are others. It's not like I'm an expert or anything. I did happen to go. I've got to look to see if I have any kind of non-disclosures. But comes down to could it have been an accident? Did any Chinese researchers recently get murdered?
There was a journalist who apparently had been reporting on the virus at the time of the initial outbreak, and the Chinese government allegedly had censored him and forced him to apologize for his reporting. And ironically enough, the guy ended up dying of coronavirus a few weeks later. So there does seem to be evidence, at least if Western sources are to be believed, that there may have been a cover-up of the initial outbreak.
It might be better to get Ben's opinion on how the Chinese would react. Again, I don't know.
Yeah.
But my thought is, if somebody made a mistake and there was blowback, that person would already be dead.
That depends if they can trace it back to the person who is in charge of disposing it. And to be honest, at least just my experience with American research facilities is that people don't log things that airtight. And so you literally have people, like, at least as far as the research facility is concerned and aware of, that the actual broken vial or misdisposed syringe or whatever device or apparatus that it could have come from, it could be put the blame on any number of individuals working at the facility. So to isolate it to it was that guy, it's just not something that's actually feasible. And I think the Chinese government, if they do plenty of research on their own, I'm sure they are well aware that of the difficulties of trying to trace it down to a single individual just for an execution. And frankly, at this point, they've got much bigger fish to fry, like making sure that they don't lose 1 billion fucking people because of their own stupidity and because they decided to go on a giant manhunt for one guy who misdisposed the vial.
Yeah,
I don't have that much experience with many labs. The only one I know of was an incident with a hippopotamus, and they constructed a device called a fluidized bed, and nothing went out of that room. Nothing went out of that room without going through the fluidized bed. And basically what it is, it's a bunch of high melting point sintered items that anything that comes in contact with them basically combusts down to individual atoms. Just so nothing survives. We're talking about viruses now. There's a class of organisms we're even less prepared for called prions. And the fluidized bed even takes care of the prions. And we're not ready for a prion epidemic at all.
So
there's something worse than a COVID?
Yeah.
A corona?
Yeah.
Would you call it a prion?
Prion, Prion.
Prion. Got it.
Mad cow.
Okay. Oh, mad cow disease.
And Jacob
Yeah,
Crutchfield.
that's pretty nasty.
Yeah, I would say this. Those things. Yeah, I mean, there's also the aspect of the incubation period being anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks. So, if just trying to find the one guy, if it was trying to find the one guy, even in the best circumstances where the incubation period is fairly short, so you can kind of, okay, so who was in the lab at this time? Okay, we can trace it down to this number of individuals, which may be 5 to 15, depending on how big the laboratory working on the specific virus that had been. But now you're dealing with something that's like 2 to 3 weeks, and now it's almost now now you're trying to trace, okay, which one of the vials and who was responsible for disposing it. That's not something people can an organization can realistically do. Even with surveillance footage, being able to trace it back with that kind of forensic accuracy is exceedingly difficult. And I don't see.
No, I don't think that many people that have access to something with an extreme potential for wildfire would actually be allowed contact. I bet if somebody here even checked out anthrax, we would know who had it.
No. I'm not saying that they would be exiting with the facility with it. What I was suggesting is that perhaps the issue could have been something as simple as a disposal bag getting torn in, and perhaps one of the local wildlife.
Well, it's like the old account 13. If you got exposed to it, you're on that list.
Yeah.
And if you basically didn't know about that field unless you were exposed to it. So there was a list for the rest of the history of the United States that you were one of the people involved with that. And so it's when you get into the extreme danger, you're not the only ones watching who has access.
Yeah.
And I would have guessed that the Chinese government's just the same.
Yeah, and so chances are that it's not going to
say some closing words, guys, if you don't mind. I got it.
Oh, are we going out?
Stuff to do. Yeah, I've been putting that in the chat and stuff, so we got to get going pretty soon.
Oh.
But Elios, it's good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input. I want to try to get you a better microphone because you're kind of in and out every once in a while.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to say that that's my internet, but honestly, who knows?
It's when you're leaning back to your left, I think, is when we're getting it kind of fading out. Yeah. But anyway, Snork, thanks for being here, chiming in. Look, guys, I want you all to know that we got some big news coming up in regards to Jesse Ventura. I'm not going to tell you what it really means, but we're working on it. We're going to see if we can get this guy out there and to the public and telling it like it should be. We're going to get some pushback from a lot of the Greens that want Howie and what are they, establishment Greens? What do you fucking call these people? I don't know. But anyway, it's ridiculous that they'd even challenge somebody of this caliber, of this magnitude, and his base or his fan base, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, thank you, Snork, for being here. Elios, good to see you.
Thank you.
Be on in a few days. All right, guys? Stay tuned. Aloha.
Aloha.